All right, gearheads, thank you for tuning into the show. We just watched the Formula One Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, and a sad day at Spa, sad weekend, but a incredible first victory ever for Charles Leclerc.
Right guy to win, too.
Yeah.
His childhood friend, I hadn't realized that. His first ever race was with Antoine Hubert. So, yeah, that's some mixed emotions for the guy. But right guy won. I wonder who predicted it. But no, I mean, that was good. I still don't know how Vettel managed to, A, first of all, get ahead of him, and B, not stay on the pace. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Vettel was struggling with his tires.
Well, he got ahead of him, right? He got ahead of Leclerc.
Okay.
But then he had no pace.
Seems I've heard that idea before.
Come on, everybody. Everybody's wanting to say that they had the prediction. But it's a great day for Leclerc, man.
Absolutely.
I think, we all three emotionally wanted him to win, and his pace all weekend long has been fantastic. And I just, great day for him to win. And you heard him dedicate the win.
His words were excellent.
Antoine Hubert, yeah. It's the way it ought to be, I mean, at this point. And really, it's just this really emotional cloud over the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm. Not a classic. Good strategy race. Haas,
lots of strategy.
I think the biggest thing I'm taking away is just how bad Haas. You really did see. I said it at the beginning, didn't I? I said, depends on what happens with the tires with Haas, and it was a disaster. And I think Grosjean's outburst, and it was pretty much an outburst. They were trying to get him in the points, and he was like, forget it. But it also doesn't bode well for his stature in the team as well. Being somewhat petulant, but I'm kind of with him. I mean, he's just frustrated.
Yeah, how could you not be frustrated with it? I mean,
right.
Magnussen was going backwards.
I know. I think Magnussen is going to head up F1's problem is passing, right? He's going to be the head of the committee for passing because he got passed by everybody at least twice today. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, those guys.
Maybe FIA needs to look at his car and see what promoted so much passing.
I mean, it was just miserable for Haas today. But, we had a little more. At one point, it looked like it was going to be a Ferrari 1-2, possibly. But like you said, Vettel just could not keep the pace later on. And when Hamilton had that bad pit stop, I thought maybe that was going to make a difference, but it was really only about a second or so.
Yeah. Interesting race. A lot. Great stuff by Albon. Really good stuff. Really impressed. This race for Leclerc has been coming, as we know, and I think it's a popular win worldwide. And I think Leclerc is going to be a popular figure in Formula One. It doesn't bode well for Vettel and the rest of the season. I wonder as we head to Monza, what Ferrari, how they will look, because they should be in the box seat again. Their home race. That's when they
good
perform.
question.
No, I think that's where Ferrari will pick up their new engine, put it in their own car. They had some good data feedback today. I mean, I think that
didn't blow, did it?
It didn't blow. I think that's where we're going to see them bringing in their latest version of the motor.
That's what they do. They always do that for Monza. They always, or they have a special Monza spec almost.
Right. It's a fast track as well.
Yeah,
so I think you potentially are going to see some similar actions as we did today around the pace, the lower downforce to maintain that, etc. So I'm hoping they'll be able to knock that out, really stay up front as we saw today.
All right, well, let me run down the winning order today in case you're listening on the radio. It was Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel in fourth, Albon in fifth.
That's
Perez.
impressive.
It is. You saw me pause there. I was like, wow, yeah, because as I'm leading up to Norris, we'll see what happened there. So Perez in sixth, Kvyat in seventh, Hülkenberg eighth, Gasly ninth, Lance Stroll in the points in 10th, and then Lando Norris, who didn't finish, but ends up 11th after having mechanical issues. He started jumping on the radio with a couple laps to go he said something like that was a weird lockup. So something happened early in the race and caused some mechanical failure. That was disheartening for any McLaren fan. My goodness, man, to see him have that fifth place wrapped up and then finish outside the points. Then comes Magnussen in 11th, Grosjean 12th, Ricciardo, actually 12th and 13th, then Ricciardo 14th, George Russell 15th, Raikkonen Kubica 17th, and then Giovinazzi, who crashed right there at the end, who thankfully was okay.
Yeah, Pouon's a
Man,
big, fast corner.
Yeah, that was a big, fast corner, and we were sitting there on pins and needles waiting for that radio, and he came on just fine. And the Carlos Sainz and Verstappen obviously did not finish the race with early crash.
I know, what might have been. I mean, it's always the way at Spa. Something happens at La Source, first corner.
Yeah, you called that for sure.
Yeah.
It's really an interesting court because at that point, that turn, I believe, is more than 90 degrees
Yep.
to your right. I mean, it's
180 almost.
Yeah. And so that is definitely tough. Some of the other layouts around that, the pit in, where it is positioned from that turn, that series of turns, is awkward as well.
Yeah.
And so great crowd. So sad to see Max go out so early in the race because that audience is hugely behind Max.
All right, let's get this going. 512-643-5483, 512-643-LIVE. Whose fault? Raikkonen or Verstappen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was with, it's funny. You were listening to the BBC, and then we flipped on the ESPN and listened to Sky, and they were kind of contrasting there. And I was leaning towards that being Verstappen's fault because it, for one, when Raikkonen hit that apex, I mean, he was on the racing line, and look where Verstappen was, but I mean, then they showed a different angle, and you were kind of going the other way with that.
I'm still torn. I think Verstappen should know better, and what I mean is that if you're on the inside, I mean, not being funny, but I've done this circuit on a video game a million times, and you know how tight that corner is, and you have to give because you can't just boldly, you can't just dive up the inside and expect everybody else to get out of your way. It's just one of those corners, and he knew what he was getting himself into by going on the inside. The safest way to get round La Source in the first lap is to go on the outside.
Yeah, and that's
because there's loads of runoff on the exit.
And you're right. To me, there was no way why he even considered going up there unless he was thinking he was going to scare Raikkonen out.
And maybe a lesser driver might have, but Raikkonen doesn't hold back.
No.
Yeah, you're not gonna scare Raikkonen out of a corner, that's for sure.
No, not with half a leg.
Not with one
leg,
one leg tied behind his back. No way, that sounds uncomfortable. Well, what are impressions, guys? I mean, we talked about the Haas. We talked about,
I want to say something about Haas while you're there. They need an engine. They need a
aerodynamicist.
They do. They need, and Gunter said it in the commentary on ESPN. But they're in trouble, and they have been all year. Maybe the rules, as you mentioned, might come to their favor as we're going into a redesign period. But right now they are struggling, and it was really made obvious today.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to play some team radio real quick because let's hear this from Lando Norris from McLaren.
Power, I'm losing power, it's going.
Okay, keep going, safety car. Keep going for now,
I can't, it's broken! It's broken! Anti-stall. It's off.
Man, level of frustration there. And if you heard during the race, there were several team radios from McLaren leading up to that, where he was saying something's wrong, it's getting worse, and man, that.
I mean, the worst thing about it was he was by the fans the race of the day. His start was sublime. He was up to sixth place right from the very get-go, and it would have been his best ever Formula One finish. And look where McLaren are now compared to where they were a year ago. So, it is bitter. I mean, Sainz was out on the first lap. And so it's been a rotten day for McLaren, and they were one lap away from having one of their best. In fact, it would have been Lando's best result ever.
Yeah. Man, this midfield is just all over the place.
Yeah.
You just never know week to week. I mean, it's been great. In fact, what they say during the race, if this midfield battle were for the front, this Formula One would be, as exciting as any racing there is.
Yeah, sure. It's been good. I mean, it's definitely, and I mean, it's great. The big takeaway from this, obviously, is that Ferrari have finally got a winning car and have won with it.
Yep. Yeah, that is the big takeaway for sure.
One of the things, though, that I keyed in on was Hamilton when he was coming up behind Vettel, talking about the dirty air and the stability and everything, and that he couldn't get through it. He pretty much kind of got stuck there for a while in dealing with that. Now, remember, Ferrari went with low down force, slipping through the wind to keep their high speed on it. To me, that was kind of telltale, because even with the DRS, Hamilton couldn't get through there. I thought that was really interesting. So I think that leads to support some of what we heard Russ Braun speak about with aerodynamic changes.
Yep, good point.
Yep, and let's look down the grid. Obviously, we had that battle with, it was so disheartening to watch the Haas team drop through, but there was also some other battles in between there too. Let's look at the final. I mean, you had Albon coming up from the back. That was one of the most interesting
Good story,
stories.
Yeah. Drove very well, and I mean, dealt with the traffic well, dealt with the pressure well, of what must have been a tough,
Yeah.
Did anybody
tough day.
else get a little on pins and needles when Gasly, they were so close?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold it.
I thought
it.
Gasly had a great day.
Yeah, he finished 9th in the points. I mean, a little redemption for him. You could see it that he was driving hard, man, because he was like, if you're going to put me down to the junior team, I'm going to show you that I don't belong here. But
I'll tell you what, reality has finally struck in with Haas Ferrari. I don't want to hit a man when he's down, but they are now 9th and second to last to Williams, who have 1 point. They have 26.
and they've been hovering down there the whole year. I mean,
we were fighting for 4th last year.
I know. Yeah. Remember here in Austin, they were like, can we pass Renault?
I guess who's in 4th now? McLaren.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and finish recapping the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. You're listening to Speed City in Austin, Texas. Back after these messages. All right, welcome back to the show, Gearheads.
Yeah.
We're just watching the race at Spa, the Belgian Grand Prix, where Charles Leclerc wins his first race ever for Ferrari, and it's the first victory for Ferrari for the year. Man, 13 races in, finally a victory for Ferrari. About time.
Yeah. Great win. Charles Leclerc off starts his account, and I think this is going to be the first of many. Some of the greats have won at Spa for the first time, including Michael Schumacher. And I think, I think we're on to seeing a huge future for this young man, and I think he's gonna have a huge following. And if you look at the next generation, Verstappen, Leclerc, Albon, these are the guys. Russell, maybe when he gets a competitive drive, these are the guys to watch. They're going to be really good. And then we've got a whole new crop coming up after them. So, I think it's an interesting future. And, of course, Vettel and Hamilton aren't going away anytime soon, nor's Ricciardo.
So Leclerc ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Albon. And so what about at the end there where Hamilton was catching Leclerc? Do you think that was pace, or do you think that was just the timing and making sure that he didn't use even a single thousandth of a millimeter for rubber towards the end, or you think he was just that Hamilton was actually catching him?
I totally think that Hamilton was catching him, and I think, given another 3 laps, both of their tires would have been really. I mean, they were struggling. They were struggling for sure.
Yeah.
But I think if there was 4 more laps, I think Hamilton would have been right there.
Yeah,
Especially with the traffic at the end.
yeah, I agree. He would have been right there. He was in a different position at that point that I think he could have passed. All the tire, the pit sequence that went through set him up. If he could have got his DRS in 2 more laps, you think?
Yeah.
I think he'd been there.
So confirmation from Formula One's Twitter account that Lando Norris, driver of the day. Oh, man, that's a horrible way to end what could have been your best race ever, finishing 11th instead of 5th. But he did get driver of the day. You weren't the only one, Jonathan, that thought he did a good job. It looks like Charles Leclerc second. And, let's think about what Charles Leclerc did today is that he did everything right throughout the race. I mean, I know you jump out front, but there's so many things that could have happened. And, let's not forget that Vettel was ahead of him a couple of times during this race. And, I just think he did a great job today. And I don't argue with that, the fact that it was close voting between him and Lando Norris.
Yeah, I feel for Bottas. In a good position, but the nearly man again. For whatever reason, I mean, 12 seconds the difference in the end between himself and Hamilton, and I don't know if that's tactics or what, but you have to question that, or at least look at it and go, why is Hamilton 12 seconds up the road?
Yeah.
Same car, same pit stop strategy, roughly.
Racing Point managed a double points finish. Stroll in the top 10.
I'm really impressed with Racing Point this season.
Uh-huh.
Given the fact that they've gone through a complete 100%, they've got new management. I mean, I know it's the same team, but I mean,
that's a big deal. What happened?
It's a big deal, yeah. And they've been competitive throughout, both Perez and Stroll. I was pretty harsh on Stroll. But he's actually holding his own. I mean, Perez is definitely much more his senior and much more experienced. Remember Sergio Perez. It's been around. And Stroll actually holding his own, I think.
Yeah. I'm glad to see him come up because we've kind of been giving him a hard time, asking Dad how much longer.
Yeah.
And I think he's coming around, and that could be stability of the team. It could be stability of the engineers. Everybody feeling like, okay, we're okay. We're going to have our job next week, and let's get down to business.
It just shows you the difference between Stroll's career and Gasly's career right now. He's got that sort of warm, fuzzy feeling of being in a nurturing team. All right, Dad's running it, but that's still the case.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
And Gasly's, in the harsh reality of make it or break it Red Bull. If you don't cut it on Sunday, you're back to the B team. And if you don't cut it in the B team, you're going home.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Max Verstappen's crash at the beginning. And we touched on it earlier in the pre-race and everything. But Verstappen has been just phenomenal coming into this weekend, winning 2 of the last 4. But then with this crash with Raikkonen, and I was saying that I think that it was Max's fault, that he just expected Raikkonen to get out of the way, and Raikkonen's like, no, I'm not. I'm on the racing line. I don't know for sure if he even saw him. We don't know.
I think that's a big part.
Yeah, I wonder if Raikkonen saw him. But you're on a hiding to nothing on the inside there with 22 cars going into that first corner. I mean, if you're on the very inside, 2 things can happen. What should have happened is that Verstappen should have pulled out of it and braked.
Yeah.
And realized he couldn't get round and that he was going to get punted. Instead, he gets his foot in, thought he could be cheeky, take the inside line, get round early, and everybody else would part the waves. Wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Did not happen.
And when they showed that replay from Max's view, he came in And if you look at that, he's really in the blind spot of that mirror
Sure.
all the way up into the point they collide. So, I can't say Max is without it. He came into the blind spot just we do in traffic. It's our fault.
He got clipped again as well as he came down the hill. I don't know by who, but that's what led him to lose that suspension and then led him to effectively hit the wall at Eau Rouge. I just feel for those Dutch fans. I mean, they're so loyal. They're so huge. I mean, it's massive, massive. I once, and I know because I've experienced it, I once interviewed Jos, his dad, leaving the track. And the fun thing we decided to do, because we knew that his fans would be all over him, was that I would leave in his rent-a-car with him and interview him, my cameraman in the back. And it was hilarious because we literally got in the car and the crowd surrounded the car getting autographs. And I literally started the interview going, pretty popular here, aren't you, John? But it's been that way. In other words, generationally wise, Jos, the boss, was just as popular.
Jos, the boss.
Was just as popular, and he had none of the success, really, comparatively, that Max is having already.
We did not get a flying lap until lap 6 of this race because you remember Carlos Sainz went out right after that.
Yeah.
It's because they had the safety car out. It was about to go in. Then they brought the safety car back out. So it took us 6 laps. So plenty of excitement at the beginning of the lap. Beginning of the race. But so I'm just looking through my race notes. Lap 27, Vettel team orders to let Leclerc pass. I mean, obviously Leclerc was way faster at that point. But
he's been faster all weekend. I mean, look at the qualifying, 0.7. I mean, was it? I mean, Vettel didn't argue. I mean, Vettel said on the radio, "I'll let him by next lap." I mean, there was no question.
But at that point, it was so clear he was so much faster. It was like, at one point, way over a second a lap. In fact, as high as 2 or 3 seconds.
And the making and breaking of that race actually was Vettel holding up Hamilton for as long as he could.
That is a really good point.
Yeah,
because we watched that gap grow. It was probably about, 3.5, 4 seconds, and it grew up to almost 7 seconds. And that's pretty much where Hamilton held it for a long time until the last handful of laps. So, yeah. But let's see. I was looking through my race. Albon passing Ricciardo in 34. That was an interesting little spot there. And, what about, we touched on this, but lap 37, Grosjean was just all over the radio about needing new tires. Just, Jonathan, you were saying earlier about you think that's I'm almost career hurting, but man, it was so frustrating.
It's his position in the team is precarious at best. Gunter Steiner has been quite open about how he's looking. For potentially another driver. Hulkenberg's now on the market, so that's an obvious connection. And Grosjean, frustrated as he is, and I share it. Magnussen should be just as frustrated, but we didn't hear him screaming on the radio. Maybe that's just the way it panned out, but Grosjean's. Basically the line was to Grosjean, keep pushing. There's points up for grabs here, and he basically said, "Up you," because there's nothing I can do. I'm basically stuck in the water here. So,
yeah, that was ugly. So, all right, guys, any other thoughts? What about you, Les? Any other favorite parts? What is your favorite part of today's race?
Oh, honestly, just the strategy, watching the pit cycles go through with Ferrari and Mercedes commingled together at front. I'm loving seeing that it just wasn't the pair of Mercedes out running away with it. Ricciardo coming up through the back end. I liked seeing that again. Ricciardo's done well at this course.
But then what happened to Ricciardo, man? He had, they kept him out on his tires for how many laps?
Way too many.
I don't know how many laps, but man, that was,
I don't know what it is. And it may be because I'm a Ricciardo fan. I don't feel like he's getting a lot of media coverage, even during the race.
So Daniel Ricciardo?
Yeah. They seem to have kind of backed away from him. There's not been a lot.
Not in a
the
Red Bull.
commentators aren't saying anything about him. Sure, but we've heard about the Renault guys. And so I don't know.
I think it's just natural recurring what's happening during the race because you're gonna Ricciardo's gonna get his.
Oh, I'm not going conspiracy theory here, but I'm just like I just kind of feel like he's in a place. Is he expected to be doing better, and he's not? Is it? But remember, he's coming into Renault to help settle and stabilize that team. And so I think he's got his hands full, and from a driver's perspective.
Well, Renault are definitely on the move. They fired Hulkenberg and with no replacement immediately. So I think they are looking to change. And I think and with Ocon, I think what's going to be really interesting is putting Ocon in the car with Ricciardo. That's going to be a really, I mean, they basically, you could argue now, hey, guys, we have two guys capable of winning a world title, as they do with Vettel and Leclerc at Ferrari, as they do with Verstappen. And I think now, after today's performance, Albon. So what I'm saying is all of the top teams that are chasing Mercedes can now say we have a pairing that either one could win. And
Man, Red Bull's stockpiling.
Yeah.
And so what about Ocon? What about the pressure on him? You know, here everybody's been saying, "Oh, he's so fantastic." He's something when he comes in next year, there's going to be a lot of pressure to really perform at the highest level.
And he's been test driving effectively and helping manage Hamilton and Bottas. So he's probably gained a lot of experience by being out of the car, good and bad. But I think he'll be hungry. I think he'll be quick. I think he'll push Ricciardo to the very limit. But he's the perfect guy, I think, for Ocon to learn from, because Ricciardo, doesn't give an inch, and will probably be a good teammate to have. In other words, he won't work against him. It won't be an Alonso-Hamilton relationship.
Yeah.
And I think he'll fight him all the way. But I think Ocon will now step into this new scene of being another challenger to both Verstappen, Albon, and Norris.
Yeah. I like the fact that Albon, because you remember, I think they said Helmut Marko was one of the reasons for Gasly's demotion was that he wasn't pushing. He wasn't trying to push through the field. And, man, Albon did exactly that today. So,
did he?
And he may have just been hearing that exact same thing that I just said. It's like, hey, man, you're not going to, you need to push.
One thing I didn't know up until I was listening this weekend was that Albon beat Verstappen for the World Kart Championship years ago.
Huh. I did not know that.
Interesting.
So they've all got a history,
Yep.
and they've all got good pedigrees. But what a rise, this kid, Alexander Albon.
Yeah.
And also we forget he's Thai, but he's British. He was born in Britain. We'll claim him now. I mean, this guy is coming up faster than Hamilton did. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And again, today was pretty impressive.
We claimed Mario Andretti.
Exactly. You can have Mario. Yeah. Immigrant? What immigrant? He's
he's not an immigrant.
He's America's
Mario.
apple pie.
Oh, let's see. Well, you know what? We're about to push up on a break. Let's go and take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about today's race, but we also got some other points we want to talk about. We want to talk about the new schedule for next year, some of the new rules for 2021. Lots of stuff to talk about for Formula One. Listen to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Felipe Massa, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's get some callers on the phone. 512-643-LIVE. 512-643-5483. Yeah, we're in the 512. The hip Austin, Texas town. Hey, we got a caller on the line right off the bat. Andy. Hey, Andy. How's it going, buddy?
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Good.
The second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the second half of the season. Good point.
Good point.
Hey, what'd you think about today?
I'm honestly a little gutted for
Yeah.
Lando not getting P5.
I knew
you-
that would happen.
You're
Yeah.
a McLaren man, I know.
Yeah.
You know, it almost feels like, your football team loses at with 4 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a Cowboys fan too then?
No, I'm Chicago, so Bears all the
Oh,
way,
well,
but,
good. Yeah, sorry
Bears.
for your loss ahead of the Packers game.
Yeah, you can't say that without it. You can't say that
I
without
think 52's got something to say about that
All
one,
right.
so we can have that debate later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's horrible having that. I mean, he had driver of the day. It was just coasting to the win, and then on the last lap, that was horrible. Doesn't get any worse than that. What about the rest of the race?
I mean, I actually thought a lot of the race was very, kind of fascinating with a lot of good strategy up and down. Midfield battle, again, that seems to be where all your overtaking really, really is. And it was nice to see a battle at the front, and Ferrari didn't miss this. There probably wasn't a better track for them to get a win, and they got the win, so good for them. And it was good to see Leclerc get it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Let me throw this one at you. What about our own dear American Haas team? What is going on?
Yeah.
It seems to me, and I've been kind of pondering this over the, course of the break and other places, but it seems like they haven't figured out how to do the upgrades. Because you remember the first couple of years, they really haven't had upgrades. So they would build a good car and then would fade back. This season it seems like they got some extra money into the budget with the Rich Energy deal. They thought they were going to be able to bring on-track upgrades, and I think it's an art that they haven't learned yet.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. And I was saying that what they need is a wannabe Adrian Newey to step up, somebody who has those kind of potential skills to try and take a design concept and take it to fruition and maybe take a few risks, because whatever they're doing at the moment with the tires ain't working.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've heard Gunther Steiner compare it to like a burnt hamburger where like the outside is completely charred and the inside is raw.
Huh.
So whatever it is,
burger.
they're not getting life out of these tires, and it's got to be some sort of fundamental flaw.
Yeah, and you heard Gunther say on the television broadcast, if you heard that today, he talked about how the car, there's just too much downforce. And that's what I think you were alluding to, Jonathan, aerodynamicist,
Yep.
but too much downforce. And I'm wondering if, it's such a mix. Is the downforce causing the tire problems?
Well, Spa, because of the sort of extremes of speed and cornering and the G-forces, really does test that mechanical issue to its utmost, and that's why I think it was so evident today. What about Grosjean? Do you think he'll stick around?
Yeah.
Do you think he'll be
he's
allowed to stick around?
Unfortunately numbered.
Yeah. So okay, would you put Hulkenberg in there, or who would you put with Magnussen?
I actually think Hulkenberg's probably the best choice of who's out there now. I mean, a lot of the dominoes have fallen in terms of the silly season, so you definitely don't want to have a brand new driver going into that car yet.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
not really ready for it.
So you just
That's the problem,
you
yeah.
just build a wall between the two drivers in the garage.
You don't have to see the other guy.
No, but they keep seeing each other on track and don't seem to be best pleased with each other.
Well, then you're going to have to. That's going to be on Gunther to manage it.
Yeah.
That's the way that they're going to go.
Yeah. Gee, I can't do it.
Hey, Andy. So, looking towards the next seasons and things, what things do you think are going to have the biggest impact on what they're changing? Aerodynamics, tire wheel size. What are you thinking is the right thing for the next seasons?
I am actually very encouraged by the fact that I'm seeing the ground effect be as played up as it is, because if you can get rid of that wall of air between the two cars as one is following the other, You saw it very much on display today, even on a long track. It matters. You get within 2 seconds, and it's a lot harder to get there without a DRS assistance. So I'm hoping that, the ground effect kind of almost eliminates the need for something like a DRS, so we see more pure passing.
Yeah, I agree. Just to kind of follow on from what we were just talking about, somebody's done, because Ask Crofty, David Croft does a sort of Ask Crofty on Twitter on Sky Sports, and somebody said, hey, should a Hulkenberg partner Kimi at Alfa Romeo? And he said, yeah, that or Haas, but I don't think we should lose Hulkenberg from the grid yet. I don't know. Is Giovinazzi done so badly?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Other than putting it in the wall today,
Yeah.
I haven't seen too much, positive or negative from him. But, that car is still kind of developing too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny when you say that. I immediately was like, well, I don't know. He hasn't done anything really poorly until that happened today. And I didn't see. Did anybody see what happened? I just saw it after the fact. Did you see, Andy?
All I saw was the one replay, and it was kind of in the middle of all of the last lap chaos, where it looked like he just lost an edge. I don't know exactly what corner it was, but and then ended up in the tire barriers.
Well, it was
I think it was Eau Rouge, wasn't it?
You got something less? Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm with you on that. But being Andy's calling in from the Chicago area, did you by chance see the? I'm going to just call it a silly discussion of an F1 on a speedway. You think F1 should come to Chicagoland? What are your thoughts around that goofy topic?
Chicagoland, I think, is actually a little small for the raw speed of an F1 car. If you're going to do an oval, it's got to be a place, and I know it gets a bad rap, but a Pocono or an Indy or somewhere where the aero where you can kind of undo some of the aero bits that are currently on the cars.
But my point on the pre-show was that surely, though, that's the last thing F1 would do, given that they're trying to save costs here and redesigning the having a car specifically for only one race is just going to be a big cost factor, sure.
I think avoid that. Make them take the car they run already.
Have them flying off in all directions.
You'd have to trim it down. I mean, you'd have to have some sort of almost like an ultra Monza wing configuration or something like that.
Well, we could just race at Monza on the oval. They've got one.
There you go.
Few upgrades, Monza can't go wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. It's
I can't take that conversation seriously about a speedway oval, but it certainly was entertaining to hear that brought up, and so that's why I say it.
all right. Well, Andy, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you calling in, and enjoy the rest of the Formula One season.
Yep, you guys stay cool and talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
See you next week.
Stay cool. He must have watched the Austin weather.
Yeah, not happening. I just
Not
got back
happening
from
in
the
Austin, Texas.
Colorado elevation. Jonathan, I hear you're going next.
Hey, so let's talk
Where I
about the upcoming rule changes. We all had kind of threw stuff in our show notes here today talking about that, because Jonathan, you put in there about the 2020 race format and qualification format as well.
Yeah. Put it this way. It seems that Formula One, certainly led by Ross Brawn, is up for looking at playing with the schedule a little bit, having a race, maybe a qualification race on Saturday. I think that's good for TV audiences. I do think that qualifying is great. But would a qualification race? I mean, Indy aren't afraid to play with it, and look at how good their qualifying situation is now with the Fast Six. Works every time. I love qualifying in Indy because there is the whole hour you were on tenterhooks as to who's going to do what. I mean, watching Dixon yesterday was brilliant. And watching all the protagonists fall by the wayside and not make it into the top six. So I love their format, and they tried that, and it's working for them. So why wouldn't Formula One try something different? And I like the idea of using the season like 2020 to experiment, given that you've got such a major change for 21.
I like this idea because, we all don't want our technology to go away in Formula One. That's a lot of us that love
Right.
this sport. That's what we love. It's the fastest car, the best technology, the best. But this is a way to bring some entertainment back into the sport without changing that technology at all. I like that, Jonathan.
What do you think?
I do. I'm game for it. Let's go with
So,
it.
okay, so the idea being a qualification race, it's a Saturday race after qualifying. What else, idea-wise?
I'm thinking about other
landmines.
Water cannons.
Water cannons.
From
besides the
general
obvious
admission.
sprinklers. But
How about a Honda lawnmower race?
There you go. We'll get
no
that.
more.
Can't adjust your idle.
Well, what other series?
I'm not that idle.
What about other series? Let's think about what other series do that Formula One doesn't. Maybe there's something we could pull in from, besides Indy that we just talked about. Any other series that do something different?
I agree with Andy. I want done with DRS ASAP, and I think the new wings will. I mean, they're saying that the reduction will be from 50% bad air to 10%, which does change the game.
Yeah.
But DRS, I think, stays numbered. Again, back to Indy. I like what Indy do because at least it's a competitive thing of a boost where the amount of, they do it in Indy Lights too, but the amount of boost they've got. They've got 120 seconds. It's when they use it, you can, the comment. I also think it's important from a commentator's point of view, from my point of view, or from any of us doing commentary, that, when you don't know, Formula One suffers from that. You really don't know what the strategy is, whereas at least you're like, okay, he's got 90 seconds of push to pass to go compared to the guy behind who's got 60 seconds. So,
it is so much better than DRS, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is so much better than DRS.
DRS is just like today on the Camel Straight. You just like the guys, you're sitting ducks.
Yeah. And that's such an easy thing to implement. That's simple.
Yeah. Yep.
Simple to implement. They've got all the telemetry and everything. So that's a no-brainer. I think that, why do you think Formula One hasn't done it? Is it series arrogance? I don't know. Why not? It's just because it's someone else's idea doesn't mean it's.
A few years ago, Bernie got all uptight about qualifying, and they reinvented the wheel over qualifying, and it was a mess. It wasn't right. Everybody complained, and they went back.
Right.
So they were frightened, I think, back then to tinker too much with it, because they were aware that it was, people were complaining that the races were boring and all the rest of it, and so Formula One has suffered perennially with exactly that battle between technology and good sport. Like you say, the purists want to keep the technology. That's what puts it apart from any other motorsport, and that's why we like people like Adrian Newey, and we see these innovations, which all do trickle down to our race car, to our road cars. But at the same time, we need it to be a sport. It needs to be competitive. Everybody gets excited about what happened in Austria. Everybody gets excited about, a really good battle. Today's race was a strategy battle, and it's not for the, it's not going to bring new fans in a race like today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's points in qualifying.
Let's talk to that after the break, and let's go ahead and take a break. But hey, write this number down, 512-643-5483. Andy called up. Give us a call. We're going to give away some tickets today to somebody.
Is that your home number?
That is my home number, but I rerouted it to the studio.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hi guys, Spa-Francorchamps from Haas Team, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
What you're listening to is Pink, who's going to be in Austin at the United States Grand Prix in 60 days.
And
boys.
Imagine Dragons, yep. Should be good.
All righty.
And that'll be the 100th Grand Prix
For Max
Max
Verstappen.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There's a little Imagine Dragons for you.
There you go. Yeah, it should be a good lineup. Obviously, Pink, very popular. Imagine Dragons get the night rocking Friday and Saturday rather than Sunday.
Yeah, they moved to that a couple of years ago now. That's a good format, I think. Let's see, boys. We talked a lot about...
By the way, I love the way Roman goes, Speed City.
Yeah. We'll have to edit that if he doesn't come back to...
You know what?
Or get him to give us a new one.
From Haas Team, and this is Speed City.
Speed City. Speed City.
Not
but
as good as Leno,
but I think Roman's getting a tough time of it. I think he's a victim of circumstance, honestly. The car's not good. And he is, Magnussen's a quiet Dane, sort of like, watch his pulse.
Steady.
It's there, steady. Roman is exactly that. He's a Latin. I mean, he's a Frenchman. He's it's all on the sleeve. So I think
Yeah, it's a good point because every driver has you put a certain driver in a certain situation, they could be a world champion. And you take that same driver and put him in a different situation, he's a complete failure.
To be honest, Hamilton, when he gets flustered, when he gets you heard him on the radio last year. When things weren't 100%, he gets pretty
he
mad.
Does, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
And Vettel, we've seen him fall apart.
Yeah. Max threw an F-bomb this week during one of the free practice on radio over something going on. It happens. Stresses, the competition, the salaries these guys are being paid and expected to deliver on. And
It's a good point.
Yes, sir. And well, let's unless you had something you wanted to talk about, and you had mentioned something about the wind tunnel for 2021.
Yeah, the wind tunnel is really interesting what they're doing because FIA is spending so much time in the wind tunnel. Previously, they've invested a lot into the CFD, the computational fluid dynamics, and what's so cool this time is now they are focusing so much in the wind tunnel. But another thing that they're doing differently is previously with the Formula One cars, the cars were 60% of size. This time, they are down to 50% of size. And so my thoughts are that they are looking more at the dirty air for the space behind the car to reduce the size of the scale of the car. That means in the same room, you're seeing more of the wind behind the car in that wind tunnel that you can work with, study, see what it's doing, which has been one of our points all along. You can't get up past that. Even in DRS, it's turbulent. So anyway, I think that's a technical aspect that they're doing, dropping down the car another 10% to the 50%. Like I said, makes that wind tunnel, makes their view a little larger in that manner. So that's awesome, I think. I think we'll get to that. It's also helping them go through the specs for the side pods and the rear wings. Will probably stay pretty similar. There's not probably going to be too much change around that, but it allows them to do it in scale and by having that 10% smaller to see what those changes are doing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the design you've seen, there is you can go online and see the artist's impression of what they think the cars will generally look like. But the idea is that you will lose. Why this dirty air is so bad is that they've worked so hard on getting the efficiency to the front wings. That's why those wings are so complex, is that effectively they're using the air to keep the front, to be as efficient over the front wheels as possible. And you might see in future a closure of more of the front wheels. And like you said, we've already reducing the front wing, so that comes down. But you might see the air effectively dissipated around the side of the car, so that it doesn't go where it's going right now, which is behind the car. And effectively creating dirty air. So that was one of the problems they're dealing with.
Sure, and this is, realize historically the teams are going to look at the wind tunnel and the dynamics going on there to see how the downforce, how the wind affects the car itself, getting that wind to apply pressure on the car in certain places. FIA F1, we're looking at what's happening behind the car. We want to promote the passing opportunity and not have dirty air behind it, which you might argue that maybe the teams do want dirty air behind them to protect themselves.
Yeah, good point.
We haven't talked about it, but that was one of the big things that happened this year was the changing of the front wing. You touched on it, Jonathan, but the real difference is the way, it's that outwash, I think is the phrase they call it, where the air going outside. They put those big plates on the end of the front wings this year and made them less complicated. But I don't know, do we feel like that even made a difference this year? I mean,
hard to tell. I
don't
think
know.
it was not.
I think it's been a general improvement over the last few years, but not dramatically.
Certainly nothing dramatic.
Not
yes.
enough where you can stop DRS, clearly.
I think
i.e. where we're still using it.
Yeah, I think we're headed in the right direction, making considerations of the ground effects instead of downforce from the wings. I think that's really going to clean up the air and promote a tighter race amongst the cars.
Well, I know you've got to get out of here and get to the airport, Mr. Green. So before you leave,
gotta be places, baby.
I want to put you. Let's say Gene Haas calls you up,
which he might.
It's very possible.
I'll take it.
As long
is
as
this
it's
the
not
drive?
collect, it's collect call.
Or is he just giving me a free hat?
If he's seen you drive, then no.
It's a cap.
Oh no! Oh, mayhem!
Yeah, that's mayhem. That's the right word. So
who is that guy?
2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The driver, and if he asks you, what do I do about my driver? And then what do I do about my tire situation from do I hire Adrian Newey? What do you do?
Here's what I say, Gene. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Roman's just temperamental. He's still faster than Hulkenberg. Okay. Hulkenberg is a spent force, in my opinion, in Formula One. He's had 20 years to get a podium. He hasn't done it. He's clearly a good driver, but so is Grosjean. And Grosjean knows the system. Grosjean gave up his career, potentially.
He's had a podium right here in Austin.
Right. And I still think he's a fast driver. I also think him and Magnussen are a good combination, and Magnussen's getting the better of him. But give Roman a Christmas off, hang out with his beautiful wife and his kids. He'll come back stronger and faster.
Give him a better car.
But and Haas, I would say, Gene, I hate to say this, but you've come to the poker table. You're here in Vegas. You have sat at the table now for 4 years. You've played a few hands, but I'm afraid you got to go back up to the bank. And you got to get some more chips, buddy, because, or get rid of Grosjean, bringing Cole Custer from his Xfinity team. No, that Cole, if you're listening, why not?
You just like his name.
I do. It's his name, Cole Custer. What a racing name. But to
that's
answer
just going to lead to Custer's
I
last
really
stand.
do think, honestly, keep the drivers, invest in a young aerodynamicist, or poach one from the Ferrari setup, i.e. within the Ferrari organization. And I say that could be Alfa Romeo. It could be, it could be anybody who is around that scene that can help. And yeah, as you said, they need to probably do more with their own stuff, like invest more. They're a big company.
You talk about poaching one, getting somebody here. When I interviewed Gunther Steiner earlier this year, it was...
You didn't call him Gene, did you?
No, I did not call Gene Gunther.
We've got that connection.
But when I talked to him, he was in North Carolina, and he said it when I first picked up the phone. He said, "Yeah, I'm here in the States," and he sounded kind of proud and excited that was. I just wonder if that's any draw, being able to be over here in the States. I don't know. Maybe it sounded like it was to Gunther. Maybe it would be to. I know I'm kind of grasping, but how else are you going to get a big name besides writing a big fat check or something to get the top-notch aerodynamicist?
So what are you saying? To be in the States?
Yeah, I'm just saying, is that a perk? That's really what I'm saying.
I mean, to work in North Carolina at the and also if you're, nothing funny. Yeah, I'm about to say if you're in your early 30s, which you've really got to be to be able to get a position like that, and you're looking at motor racing as being your future, I mean, look at the options that Haas has got, and look what people like Andretti and Ganassi are doing. They're spreading out into supercars, into NASCAR, into Formula E. So if you are part of the Haas family, you've got NASCAR, which they are hugely successful in. You've got Formula One. Who knows what else they might try their hand at?
Yeah, it's true. And are there can you think of anybody, any other big name that they might try to go after? I just don't know the CFD guys. I don't know the aerodynamicists. I just don't know those.
No, I don't. And in fact, to be honest, for the second half of the season, it may well be worth trying to identify, a James Key type person, somebody who is in that world, but not just not a race engineer. Somebody.
Yeah, you're right. It's not an engineer. It's a leader, and somebody that maybe they could bring their own team. I think liken it to NFL or whatever.
Yeah, and before I throw under the bus whoever's in that position at the moment,
yeah, I know.
It may be funding more than anything else. Like I said, I mentioned the chips analogy. I mean, I think, unfortunately, Haas were fighting above their weight last year and the year before, and now reality has stuck in. But they have a specific problem to deal with. Everybody knows it. It was there again today. Spa just shows it up. They are having mechanical grip issues caused by aerodynamics to their car. Look at what McLaren have done in a year. They had a similar problem.
Yep.
It wasn't all engine problems, remember? Everybody said that.
Yeah, they got the new engine a year ago, and it still didn't fix the problem.
Right. So,
you talk about hurting anybody's feelings. You know what? I'm sorry. If you're not getting the job done, I know Gene Haas is an American industrialist. He's not going to have a problem going, you didn't get the job done, you're out. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why, I think it's unfair to blame Grosjean. It's like, the car's clearly not good enough. And Grosjean, when the car's good, is up there 4th, 5th, 6th.
I saw an interview. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had somebody suggest start over with the car. Just scrap and build your own, Gene.
Yeah.
Bring in his known entities, the known talent, and building that car instead of adopting something and trying to make it work. That's obviously at a big budget.
So maybe the mantra is, Genie, let yourself go.
That was bad. Yeah, man, I don't know. But I do like the idea of, some heads may need to roll because it's not working this year. All right, well, let's take our final break and come back for the last segment. You're listening to Speed City F1 live from Austin, Texas. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
All right, I saw the I got to touch on the story that you brought up, Les, but I want you to talk about it. There's rebranding of the Mexico Grand Prix to the Mexico City Grand Prix.
You bet.
What's going on there?
What's going on there is a change of kind of who is going to sponsor it or who's going to endorse it. The current president of Mexico, Amo, they call him, is not all that into these entertainment festivals, things of that nature. President Nieto before was, and thought it was a great way to show Mexico as a destination. Come party with us, come hang on the beaches, come see Mexico City's art and that lifestyle. Certainly there's a lot of other things. And so the federal government stepped away from the Formula One race in Mexico City, and we're not going to invest anymore. Well, thankfully, Mexico City recognizes it, and much like Austin, there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of benefit for the Mexico City region. And Mexico City was able to get together a collection of investors to keep it rolling, and so it's going to remain on the calendar. So you will notice some rebranding of it. You'll see the Mexico City Grand Prix instead of Mexico Grand Prix. They want to make sure they get the proper recognition for it in Mexico City.
I wonder if our friend Tony Calderon, a speed group, he's so involved in everything down there in Mexico.
We might have to check out with him.
Or call up Bruce Knox. Get him on the show.
There you go. There you go, Bruce.
And Bruce, who used to be with COTA, is now with the Mexico City Grand Prix.
That's right.
Hey, this is a good segue, though. The F1 2020 calendar was released, and Mexico and the United States keep doing the old swapperoo, and so now COTA for 2020 is back into October, and Mexico City's back into November. I really prefer the later the better here in Austin, because if they go back any further in October, we're going to have a track meltdown out here when the track temperature is 150 degrees. But yeah, that's just part of it, because the big one is the fact that Vietnam, April 5th. And so it looks like the rest of the calendar. So Australia, Bahrain, Vietnam, April 5th, and China, Netherlands, Spain, Monaco. Everybody else looks to be in about the same place and ending up on November 29th. So wait a minute. That's about when they end this year. We've got one more race. Are we starting? Yeah, we're starting earlier, March 15th, because it's 15th. Typically the third week instead of the second week. So that's where that's coming in. So
yeah, and remember, May 3rd, they threw in Zandvoort.
Yeah, that's right.
Outside of Amsterdam.
Yeah, of course.
So they popped in a couple more. Some of the discussion about how many races would be supported if we could. And there's a drastic cost difference in going up even just a couple of races for a team. You think about all of that and the distance and everything that comes in. Absolutely, we'd like more races. I mean, I'd just about go year round, but the cost
Speak for yourself.
involved in that is quite substantial. They're talking about they don't think they would want to go past 25 races a year.
Man, 25, wouldn't that be? I don't know why that seems just crazy, but
I think potentially spread them out a little bit more. Going around the world, having things set up so that you can have one race a month would be cool. 1 or 2 races a month, year round, capitalizing on the climate. Now, what that does, that impedes your ability to prepare for the next season.
I don't know how you do that, man. I think there's got to be that off season. There's too many.
They need the off season to deal with prepping for the next season, the new car, all of those kind of things.
Yeah. Hey, we played in the pre-race show today a clip from Ross Braun, but we have another little part of that. And you'd found those stories. It was from Sky Sports, right?
Sky Sports. They did great on this interview, and it's with Russ Braun, head of motorsports. And what is so cool about it is they asked him some questions, and he got the time to answer them. In the other show, we talked about some of it, but in this show, we're going to listen to him about changing the race weekend.
All right, well, let's hear from Ross Braun, from Formula One?
I'd like to see in 20 us try a few things. I think in 20 we've got a stable platform in terms of the cars. Things aren't changing that much. And I think 20 could be a good opportunity, perhaps at 1 or 2 races, to try some variations. And I don't see any other way that we logically progress the race format. I think the basic race format is good, but would a sprint race be interesting, or would some variation in qualifying be interesting? And I think the teams are up for doing some variations during a Saturday to see if we can touch on a better solution.
If you're trying to reduce costs overall, why are the other powers that be then trying to increase the calendar? We're seeing to potentially a maximum of 25 races. That can't help things, can it?
I didn't catch that.
I'm just talking, sorry, Ross, with regards to, you know, if we're looking at increasing the calendar to potentially 25 races, that's not going to help with cost reduction.
No, I tell you what we are looking at, though, is the format over the weekend. What happens on a Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, we want the cars to run on a Friday, but is there a way of shortening the weekend from an operational point of view for the teams? Because they all turn up on a Tuesday or even a Monday to get ready. And if we could restrict that, if we had a tie to Parc Fermé, if we controlled the amount of time that a team was at the circuit, then we could shorten the operational weekend for them and turn it into a 3-day weekend. And again, we remember when you would turn up on a Thursday afternoon and everyone would get there, put the cars in the garage and go racing. Now they turn up 2 or 3 days earlier because they want to get everything ready.
Doesn't help the promoters, though, does it, that, potentially? Silverstone, people like that.
The promoters need the Friday running, don't they? The promoters need the Friday income.
No, I think Friday is important for promoters. It starts the weekend off, but could we have 2 sessions on a Friday afternoon, for instance? Maybe slightly shorter sessions, and then that means the teams can prepare on a Friday morning.
We could cancel the disco.
Yeah, Ross Brawn, and that was from Sky Sports. You know, with his background, I love the ideas. I love it, and I love that he is, throwing all these things out there. Saturday qualifying changes, Friday, whatever. Turn up, whatever we can do to make the.
I think add some points into that mix somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a caller on the line. We got George from Virginia. Hey, George, how are you, sir?
Good morning, gentlemen.
What's going on?
Very conflicted day.
This
weekend lets you know that this is still a dangerous sport despite all the enhancements and safety protocols. There's still anything by man can still have fate. So I know you've gone over that. So
well, hey, look, it's you're right, and we get complacent, I guess is the right word, in our sport because it has been so safe, but you're right, man. It's an emotional day, and you can just feel it on social media. I mean, everybody. It was a complete gut kick when I heard the news. After F1 qualifying, I was like, oh my gosh, we just don't have it like we used to. In the early days, we used to have so many deaths in motorsport, and thank God it's not that way anymore.
I have the kind of change, because I know the top of the hour is coming. As an American, I want to see an American team succeed. But as someone who's in business, the Haas business model ain't working. And my only remedy is, if his pockets are deep enough, buy a GT2 team and let that be the Haas Toro Rosso. And specs from that team. They have everybody in the system there. They don't have to piecemeal together a team. And let that be like Haas B. And, all the data they come in with the the tech people there who's already in place because they're in the system just at a lower level. Maybe that can, I know it's a GP2 and F1 is still different levels, but I still think that maybe that's a way they can get out.
I like this idea, though. I mean, think about it. You've got all the economies of scale that you've got in the Haas organization that spreads out to NASCAR as well.
Right.
I mean, I know there's a lot of that's not the same, but still, you've got people, administrative people, and all, and of course the Haas F1 team. So you got all those economies of scale. And you know what, George, that's a really interesting idea because you can throw money at Formula One like crazy, right? Do you keep throwing it at the Haas F1 team? Yeah. Interesting idea. I like this.
I think we've got our team principal. George has a good accent. He speaks well. I don't know if I'll confuse him as Gene again, but
well, yeah, George, that's an interesting thought. What about the race today?
It was a great race. Leclerc deserved it. It's good to see a Ferrari on the podium. I'm really pissed off from Norris, though. I wanted McLaren. I wanted to see his drive. That was sort of, for McLaren fans, I know that was a punch in the gut, but I enjoyed it. And I think, but I'm not going to say Ferrari's back, but I'm really getting concerned now about Vettel.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an equipment thing anymore.
Yeah, who knows? He had a couple of good races leading up to this, and I thought maybe this mental part of his game was better, but I think you're right. Well, George, we're out of time, buddy. Thanks for tuning in today, man. We appreciate you listening.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and make sure you go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, because we do lots of motorsport. We do a regular weekly Sunday show. We do our pre- and post-F1 show.
Plan to get
lots
here
of
before
content.
the USGP. We've got some cool stuff in the works.
Yeah, we do. We got some cool stuff. All right, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.
Ciao, y'all.